can't do that! These glasses do not help one bit!
Before we start, we just want to say we have timestamps in the description down below if you want to use them. How to Rob a Bank is an asymmetric action queuing game where a team of robbers, each individually controlled by players, attempt to rob a bank in the most janky heist of all time. The bank is controlled by one other player who controls their own team of cops, and they're trying to stop the robbers from making off like bandits. The game is for 2 to 4 players and takes about 30 minutes. How to Rob a Bank also has programmed movement and actions, meaning that players must create action cues with cards and have to perform those actions in sequence. Needless to say, your heist won't always go as planned when playing this game. Let's take a look what you get inside the box of How to Rob a Bank. By the way, this is the first edition. Whee! Okay, small box. Starting off simple, we got ourselves this rule book. Very small, very simple, very colorful, very detailed. Got this game board right here, also very small. And I love how it looks like a blueprint schematic. That is very cute. Yeah. Alright, next we got a bunch of these tokens. Yeah, so basically the tokens are all going to have either a money bag on them, or they're going to have this alarm on it. And also they're all double-sided with a lock. Next we got this bag full of cops, guards, whatever you want to call them. The blue people. Look at them. Cute little dudes made of nice wood? Yeah, I think it's like polished wood. Next batch of figures we got here. If I can open these bags. Alright, so now we got the robbers. They're wearing masks and they're colored instead of having a badge in front of them and being blue. Alright, there's also the car. Robbers need a getaway car. Alright, so these are a bunch of tiles that you're going to use to just lay out all over the board too. There's also these 2 tiles that use depending on the amount of players you're playing the game with, so one of them always gets thrown out. And then the last thing in this box are these cards. There's 15 bank cards, 15 green robber cards, 15 red robber cards, and 15 yellow robber cards. Actual front side of them have pictures of dudes doing stuff on them. Yeah, and then we got this cut out in there. That's it. Simple, small game. Quick little tutorial on how to play How to Rob a Bank. So you set up, first you're gonna lay out the board, all right? Then you're gonna decide who's gonna play as the bank. Then the robbers pick their colors. You know, you got the green robber, red robber, yellow robber. Next, take a look at these 2 tiles in specific. You might notice that one of them has a picture of 4 dudes on it. Other one has a picture of 2 or 3 dudes on it. This is your player count tile. You keep the one for your current player count and set aside the other. So for this example, we'll just assume you're using the 4-player tile. You're gonna then shuffle up all the tiles that you're gonna be using. Bada bing, shabing, shaboom, bab, bab. Next, you're gonna cover every single circle with the money bag on it with money bag tokens. And then you're gonna cover the alarm circle with the alarm token. Then you're gonna place all the robbers on the space with a mask on it. Then you're gonna place 1 guard on every space that has a shield on it. You're then gonna put the robbers' getaway car on the street opposite of the robbers. So in this case, if they're over here, you would put it there. If they were, for an example, over here, it would go in the opposite corner, and you can make it touch any side of that corner. Finally, you're gonna give everyone their corresponding deck of cards. After that, everyone's gonna draw 8 cards, and then you're ready to start. The goal of this game is for the robbers to collectively steal 4 money bags if they're playing with 2 or 3 players in total, and 5 money bags for a 4-player game. And they gotta steal these money bags over the course of 3 rounds. The bank's goal, on the other hand, is to survive those 3 rounds without the robbers winning. Alright, so how the gameplay loop of how to rob a bank works is that a round always starts with the bank player playing a card from their hand face up into this slot on the board right here with the shield on it. Bang bam. And then, going in clockwise order, robbers will do the same. One at a time, all in their own slots. Everyone does this until they all have a stack of 5 cards. Here's how resolving everything actually works. Everyone's gonna flip their 5-card pile over. Then, starting with the bank and again going clockwise, players will flip over 1 card and do the actions that are on it before passing the turn to the next player, clockwise order again. And they do the exact same thing. The order that the cards resolve in should be the exact same order as the one that they were initially played in. Once all cards have been flipped and resolved, the round's over, and players reset the board. Quick rundown of all of the actions, which, by the way, are also conveniently labeled on the board as well. So, in general, if there is a dude running on a card, that means you move a figure 1 space. Oh yeah, and moving is mandatory. All other actions in How to Rob a Bank are optional to use. This card allows a guard to lock a token on their space, be it money or the alarm, whatever it is, they're just gonna flip that token over to the lock side. On the other hand though, the robbers have an unlock card, which lets a robber standing on a locked token flip it back over to its unlocked side. For the offensive cards, guards can tackle robbers, but the robbers can pepper spray guards. So how this works is if an enemy figure shares a space with you and you play your attack card, whether it's your pepper spray or your tackle, you lay down the opposing figure down like that. They will be temporarily disabled and can't do anything. Lastly, robbers have 2 more action cards. The first one is this dude crawling out of a hole, and they magically just show up in any space they want to on the board. This one is a person holding money. So this is how robbers actually are going to pick up money. Okay, and then one more thing. Robbers also have 4 unique actions they can perform in addition to their card action. These have nothing to do with their cards, just like on your turn, you can just choose to do one of these actions. They're all listed on the board, right there. So the first one is gonna be moving the getaway car 1 space. Pretty self-explanatory, you can just move it 1 space. The next one is throwing a carried money bag into the getaway car. So this can only be done if the robber is standing in a non-middle space when the car is next to their space. So if this happens, you simply just place one of the money bags that they're carrying onto the side over here to indicate that that bag has now left the bank. You score it. The next action is passing a money bag token. Similar thing with like passing the money to the car. Instead of just passing 1 token to a robber that shares your space. Teamwork makes the dream work. And then the last unique action is pulling the alarm. If you got a robber standing on the space with the alarm, they can pull it to instantly teleport all standing guards onto their spot. Oh yeah, also super important, as a rule of thumb in this game, all robber actions that interact with tokens in any way, so including the alarm and the money, fail to activate if there is a standing guard in their space. So unlocking tokens, picking up money, throwing money to getaway car, pulling the alarm, and passing money to other robbers all do not work. Because of this, guards can be excellent deterrents by simply just standing on key spots. Alright, now onto the actual review part of this video where we talk about what we think is great about how to rob a bank, as well as what's not so great. Alright, first up we're going to talk about what we like. So first thing I want to address are the components. These nice wooden components. Yes. We very much enjoyed the nice feeling of these wooden figures. They got nice tactile feeling, so moving the car around and just moving dudes around in general, super solid. Next, the setup is super clean and fast for this game. You give the robbers their cards, their figures, and their car. The bank gets their figures and cards. You set up the board, put the tokens on, and bam! You can start playing. Then lastly, there's player rates for everything in the game right on the board in the margins, plus the back of the rulebook. So it's very clear to players what they can do. For the gameplay stuff that we like, first up, we really like how many choices you can make in the game for how simple the game is. The existence of the alarm by itself is a huge factor in this because it is a very strong mini objective to contest. And so with 5 turns per player per round, robbers really have to plan out how they're going to use the alarm. On the flip side, the bank also has to worry about spreading themselves out too thin if they defend the alarm, potentially leaving more money bags open. So this is a really cool dynamic the game has going on. Also, the extra unique actions were a super neat design decision to cleanly let robbers do key actions that probably would have made the game very confusing and frustratingly inconsistent if they had been actions on the cards. They definitely aren't overpowered or anything and feel more like integral parts of robber play. Another thing that prevents a lot of frustration is the ability to do your turn's actions in any order you want, which definitely allows a little more room for error so that you don't have to meticulously plan every little detail out, allowing this game to consistently be light, yet still full of depth when considering the different ways your opponents can sequence their actions. There's also a surprisingly decent amount of lines of play to take when playing the game. You can rush the money bags, you can rush the alarm, or you can use your teleport card first turn or save it later to get away with a money bag. And the guards can position themselves aggressively or defensively depending on if they want to be locking or tackling or maybe just standing on just key spots. Both sides also have powerful cards that can definitely swing the game when used properly, namely the Robber's Teleport and the Guard's Move 3. But they're decently rare and necessary since the map is random and can be favorable to either side depending on people's hands. Plus, even if the board is pretty one-sided in either direction, there's always a chance that players mess up their execution because it is easy to forget what everyone played, and so the gameplay always feels healthily varied. There's also a bunch of aspects about this game that we want to compliment. First, the playtime is very true to their advertised time. How to Rob a Bank is more often than not going to be 30 minutes or less. Its theme is also just in general very cute, very fun, very accessible, and I definitely can see myself playing this game with family and friends and kids who aren't too young. That absolutely is a testament to its clean look and simple game design. That simpleness also greatly facilitates robber coordination as they plan out their moves together, as well as the bank's response to the robbers' schemes. Lastly, I want to point out that this type of game, an asymmetric action queue, action program, whatever you want to call it, game, as far as we're aware, is very rare. Off the top of my head, like Root comes to mind. And yeah, like How to Rob a Bank is also a short asymmetric action queue game that's decently light and super accessible. So that's pretty cool. Moving on to what we think sucks about How to Rob a Bank. First, the card quality is pretty iffy to us. They are extremely thin and floppy. And while they're serviceable, it still kind of feels like you can tear them on accident if you're careless. Next, we had a pretty confusing rule dispute over what actions were actually mandatory, because the rulebook is a little contradictory in that it specifically states, and I quote, "If a card shows more than one action, all of the actions shown must be performed, if possible." But then all the non-move actions are described as "you may perform them." So we cleared this up by looking up the rules online and also looking at the second edition rules, but that's still kind of an important thing that they really should have gotten clear from the get-go. We also ran into some balancing issues with 2 or 3 player counts, because it always feels like the bank just didn't have enough manpower to cover the robbers, especially if the robbers have the teleport card. But at the same time, the bank's tackling felt way stronger because it knocks out half the robbers' total force for the turn. And unless they get a bad map or don't draw the teleports, the bank struggles to adequately cover enough ground to impede the robbers. Ultimately, we believe that How to Rob a Bank plays best at 4 players, where not only is it the most balanced, but also has much more entertaining banter between the robbers, since with 3 of them, there's so much more that can go wrong if they're not in sync. Last thing you want to complain about is the anticlimactic ending if robbers only need 1 more bag on the last round. Getting only 1 bag in a round is pretty easy for the robbers to do, and so we wish there was some sort of advantage given to the bank in this case, maybe allowing them to move and rotate a couple of tiles around so that the map favors them. This way, the last round at least becomes more interesting and doesn't just feel like a free win for the robbers. On the flip side of this, if the robbers need 3 bags in the last round, it feels almost impossible, so maybe then the robbers can alter the map if that's the case.
Alrighty, time to score How to Rob a Bank. Here at Shelfside, we rate things a little bit differently because we got 2 people running the channel. Right now, we're going to give the recommender score, which is how we try to evaluate the game as objectively as possible by weighing the aforementioned pros and cons. After that, the 2 of us will give you our personal scores, which are our own opinions about the game.
For the recommender score, we give How to Rob a Bank an 8 out of 10. This is a great game and absolutely nails being a short, asymmetric action cube game. The theme and aesthetic is pretty silly, and the gameplay is simple enough for just about anyone to pick up, but still thoughtful enough to cause interesting decision making. Playing both sides is fun in their own way, and it's also easy to understand what the other side can and is trying to do. The pros definitely outweigh the cons for How to Rob a Bank, as the downsides can be easily mitigated or decently minor in scale. This is a game that we can easily recommend to a lot of groups out there. And for how small and cheap this game is, I'm very surprised how much I got out of it just from a random impulse buy, because it was on clearance on my local Target. However, second edition is bigger because it has like this standing cutout bank that you can put all the pieces on top of. So if you like having some 3D in your board games, then the second edition option is going to be great.
We overall feel that How to Rob a Bank is a very easy game to pick up and play, and highly recommend it if you have 4 players and need a new 30-minute game. Even more so if you're looking for something accessible for the family, or even remotely interested in the game, especially because of the unique gameplay.
Alrighty, now it's time for my personal score of How to Rob a Bank. Yeah, this is a game I randomly bought on clearance, so I wasn't really expecting much from it, but I would personally score this game a 9 out of 10. Whoa, what the... Let me explain why. So How to Rob a Bank is definitely at the top of the food chain for me when it comes to 30-minute games. It's light with a decent amount of depth. It's small and easy to carry around. Components never fall out of the box. It basically checks off everything I'm looking for in a 30-minute game. Plus, I'd feel pretty comfortable whipping it out for a lot of different groups. I really enjoy the goofy theme and the feel of the game, and it's honestly really entertaining to me to simply move the pieces around and just look at the game board. The team play also really engages me because it's fun trying to plan out moves as a team to coordinate where we're going to be at what times, and just as interesting to play as the bank in trying to set up hard-to-answer problems for the robbers. So yeah, I think this is a criminally underrated game that deserves to be in more people's collections.
It's now time for my personal score on How to Rob a Bank. This game is going to be a 7 out of 10. It's a good game. Now, the thing about this game is that I completely blew it off at first because of the horrendous art in the front. Like, this looks like something from a kid's movie or something like Spy Kids. I don't know what the hell, but this game is nothing like what the front of the box alludes to. In fact, there's not even kids running around in beanies in the rulebook. The clean execution of this game with a healthy amount of variance most of the time is something that many shorter games should strive for. I would never pass up playing as the robbers in this game, as spraying those pesky cops or dumping off money in our getaway car just feels so exciting. I will say though that this box offends me every time I play it. This game is still a 7 out of 10. It's a good game. Just what the hell is this?
How to Rob a Bank has a pretty wonk looking box that at first glance kind of just looks like filler trash with how bootleg it looks. The fact that it's small definitely doesn't help it draw any attention on shelves either, but man are we glad that we own this game. While it's by no means a perfect game, it is definitely pretty up there for 30-minute games. We'd encourage you to try it out if you're interested, especially since it's cheap. We got a buy link in the description below, but unfortunately it's for the second edition at a pretty pricey cost. The MSRP is supposed to be around like $25, but the links on Amazon are like 30 and 40. But if you go to Target, go to their website and look for the first edition, it should be around $10. Anyways, that's going to be it for this Shelfside review of How to Rob a Bank. Thank you all for tuning in and watching our video, and we'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.
Hey, how's it going?